Hello, welcome everyone. I'm David. I'm one of the maintainers of the Bebel Operator fabric in Hyperlayer. And I'm with Kamlesh, who will introduce yourself. Kamlesh, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, hi David. I think everybody who deploying the fabric on production use the you are one of the contributions. So thanks for that one. And let me introduce myself. I'm Kamlesh Nagware. I'm the co-founder of one company called FSV Capital, and I also leading the Hyperledger India, which now we rebrand as a LFDT India chapter from last more than 4 years. And in having a last 8 years experience in blockchain from Hyperledger to the different projects and involving from digital identity projects to the CBDC projects. I think is a fantastic journey from last 8 years in blockchain. So yeah, it's great to be here with you, David.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for the words on the operator. I mean, I started operator back in 2020 because I had a problem, and then I tried to solve it, and it was actually my first open source project. So grateful that it's being used. So you mentioned about FSB Capital. What do you? I mean, what projects do you have there, and how does it link to blockchain? Because I have seen a lot of blockchain projects, but not many successful blockchain projects. And
Mhm. Yeah, so I think David right about like we have seen many projects so far, and I think not you and me. I think the Web3 and blockchain community sees the many use cases, and still the success is a missing part. So, and I think there are projects which are more in the enterprise side or maybe the crypto side. Let's say real layer ones are doing good. So, when I left my CTO job at one of the organization, I thought like, why not build some kind of incubation or some kind of accelerator program instead of whether building one product or maybe working with one use case. So motive was to support the blockchain and fintech ecosystem in India. So in FSV Capital, we there are three co-founders. So one is Prasanna Lohar, which is the a very well-known figure in a fintech ecosystem, and one of the prominent figure who are applying blockchain in the banking ecosystem from last 10 years. And another partner who having very good expertise in the working with startups and running the VC fund earlier. So we started to work with the blockchain or fintech projects in the early stage, supporting them in terms of some in the use case validation or engaging with them on the some kind of new use cases, innovative products around it. And we have diverse category of projects. So we have some startups working in a CBDC, some startup we have a deep tier financing on tokenization. The one startup we have that is working on a decentralized AI on one of the blockchain ecosystem, and then CBDC, some startup in CBDC. We have a startup which is working on a decentralized identity. So, and I think why we choosing this startup? So we should have some offer to them. I mean, like, because we all three is well connected to the different business partners and governments in India. So we wanted to support the startup and backing the startup where we can give business to them or bring the business to them, not just about the funding or the advisory services, but along with the some real business to them. So different. So we have a startup called Zolt, which is very exciting startup, especially in tokenization and CBDC infrastructure. They even recently won the Reserve Bank of India hackathon on the privacy preserving CBDC. So similar kind of we have multiple startups, or even not just a startup. We are also working with some kind of Series A level companies where they are looking for a business and want to expand in India. So those kind of services we do there in FSU Capital.
yeah, you mentioned about tokenization and CDBC. So for the CDBC, do you see because most of the uh, companies that need CDBC are governments.
Correct.
So, do you see a market outside the governments, or all the CBDC companies that
Mm.
you work
So I
for
think
work for governments?
CBDC is a digital currency, right? And so if I relate to the Indian ecosystem, so for example, when the UPI, the digital payment is started in India. The maybe you heard
yeah,
about the UPI, right? The paying with the QR code. So and that was a huge success. That will open the ecosystem of the different fintech startups.
yeah,
Similar thing like I relate the CBDC with the similar kind of another era where you are building the programmable or offline or any of the innovative use cases on top of those CBDC infrastructure. So, like how the UPI or the digital payment transform the fintech ecosystem in India and globally, the same thing is going to be derived by the CBDC. So if you see like, and that's why every country currently the 134 countries are already working on CBDC initiatives,
yeah,
or even in India, from last 2 years the pilot is going on. I think already 14 banks is part of it, and multiple startups. Even we are working on CBDC. So I think government is a central focal point about the CBDC infrastructure, but like it will enable the new innovative use cases on top of the
yeah,
CBDC infrastructure, especially cross-border payment is going to be simplified using the CBDC infrastructure. And second, the programmability, how you bring the programmability in the money. So, for example, there are a couple of things already in India that is tried. So, for example, our prime minister who give the subsidy to the women for their well-beings, and that was now given in part of the CBDC, because they can program that this money is going to be used for a specific purpose, not for the other purpose, because you could program it.
yeah,
So I
yeah, yeah.
think those kind of use cases could bring the another layer of startups building on top of CBDC. So it will open the new doors to the new startups out there.
Hmm. Yeah, in fact, I just searched UPI has been built by NPCI,
Correct.
which I know a lot of well people that I know in LinkedIn are working there, and all of them are working in Fabric. So it's great that Fabric is being used there. So apart from that, you are part of the Hyperlayer India personal chapter, right? So
Yeah.
what is your involvement there? What
So
do you do?
yeah, so actually, to grow the community in India in Linux Foundation
Mm,
Hyperledger, there are there are 7 regional chapters out there, and that
yeah,
regional chapter's responsibility is to work with the local authorities and local companies or local ecosystem to awareness, education, events, and kind of bringing those use cases on top of the Hyperledger project. So as a chapter lead, my responsibility to connect with the startups, connect with the government, and government with the connect with the enterprises to enable them. They use the Hyperledger related technology, not just Hyperledger, because now recently they've rebranded as themselves as a Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. So any of the projects who are bringing the decentralization in any of the use cases, any of the technology, so
mm,
we are working with all those different startups and community, working with the closely with the Linux Foundation staff to awareness, education, and the growing the ecosystem of Hyperledger tech in India. So there is a roles and responsibility, and I think Hyperledger India is one of the kind of successful regional chapters of the Linux Foundation.
yeah.
Hyperledger.
I heard that there is one also for Latin America, for South America.
Correct, correct. Latin America is
Yeah,
there is a,
but
I think European chapter is also in plan. There is a Arab chapter is
mm,
also in the progress.
yeah,
But I think because India chapter was the first chapter, and then it grows to some level. Like now we even every year the Linux Foundation executive director Daniela and the Julian Gordon is come to India
mm,
for coming or encourage our community out in India.
yeah. The community. I mean, I have seen grow the community in India for blockchain like crazy. I mean, it's it's growing so fast.
Yeah.
And what are because you work with many startups? What is the problem that you encounter most? I mean,
Yes.
in all blockchain projects, because in my experience, what usually happens is that a company wants to use blockchain, they set up a cluster of 1 2 organization, everything is centralized. But
Correct.
the beauty of blockchain is that multiple organizations work together, exchange data, build smart contracts, and this is something that I have found very hard to accomplish.
Correct. So I think you're right about the anyone, not just the startup, but who are building the CBD, some kind of blockchain infrastructure. They whether using the one cloud or whether using the one cluster and setting up all the organization
Mm,
stakeholder in the one common and one cluster even. And I think there is not a right architecture, but I think those startup enterprises are maybe they are using this blockchain for one of the database instead of the completely decentralized governance. So I think yeah, there is even still misconception in the every startup I think not a startup, I think everywhere. So
mm,
they talk about the decentralization, but decentralization is truly happen when you're running a node in a different ownership and a different infrastructure. Even let's say if you're running the node in the different geographies and the one cloud, let's say AWS, that is not decentralized. It is controlled by one organization. So, but I think that is truly not going to be like where all the organization is running separate cloud and separate ownership. So that's why this organization is running on such kind of cluster. So in couple of my projects, what I'm doing. So uh, with the emerging technology and AI and Gen AI is also coming up. So
mm,
few of my startups where I'm involved as an advisor and consultant, they adopted blockchain plus the Gen AI together. So there's one startup called Resumex where I'm involved as an advisor.
mm,
So there we are using Hyperledger Fabric and the generative AI. So it's a combination of generative AI plus Hyperledger Fabric, and it's some kind of gig worker marketplace where we are making payments to the freelancers using that smart contract written in Fabric and using Gen AI to develop the code bases and the automation of the softwares using Gen AI. So it's combination of even whatever the smart contract we deployed on a Fabric, it is generated by a generative AI component, and then we are using it. So from generating a smart contract to deploying to the Fabric is completely automated on the generative AI stuff, and also we trying to create the SDLC life cycles from product design to the product development and deployment on generative AI tools and technologies together. So this is one startup I am getting involved, and there are other startup or other so even enterprises. So I also work with EY India as an advisor consultant to the different blockchain initiatives out there,
mm,
where we are. So EY India mostly work with government institution or government state governments in India, where whether the e-governance, whether it's the digital transformation of the government projects or land records or certificates, those kind of things. So as a part of that project, another I involved one project called GS1 India. So GS1 India is standards for supply chains. You may be seen the barcode or QR code. So that is one of the
mm,
standard coming from the GS1. So
mm,
in GS1 India, we working with couple of projects on supply chain and traceability on which is supported by Government of India departments on animal husbandry department, where we're doing the traceability of meat, traceability of ghee, one of the
yeah,
milk product, and other things as well. So those are the things they're doing there in GSP India, and along with I'm advisor to a couple of other startups. So I advisor to one of the waterfall project. That project is a decentralized debt platform, direct acyclic graph similar to the Hedera technology, but
yeah.
it is a different way we are able to scale the technology so faster. So there is one project I am working especially for the community building in India for them,
Mm-hmm.
and there are others. So I also engage currently in one of the project in Saudi Arabia where we are bringing the technology uh, adoption in the Saudi region with the hyperledger.
Mm,
So multiple things I do, and mostly
yeah,
my motive is to how to promote and build the innovative use cases beyond cryptocurrency and beyond tokens, especially using technology and building the whether infrastructure, whether some real use cases instead of just crypto tokens out there.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, from all of the projects that you have mentioned, I think GS1 India, which is about the supply chain, and also the other about CBDC, but the one for the supply chain, I think is the project that most resonates with blockchain. I mean, is the most natural project, let's say, for
Hmm.
blockchain.
Yeah.
What do you? But from all of these projects, what are the challenges that you see? Because, as I said, so you build a project, then you need to. This is not public blockchain, so you are not storing
Hmm.
the data in Solana or Avalanche. You are
Hmm.
building a network, and one of the biggest problems I think that people have in their projects, and what to people or companies that want to use blockchain, is that okay, I built a network, but I need others to be part
Hmm.
of my network. How do I incentivize the
Correct.
other companies to run the node? Because initially, I have seen many companies that say, no, I want to use it, but I don't want to host a node because,
Hmm.
especially in Hyperledger Fabric, it costs. The cost is so much. It's great, and not only the cost in running the infrastructure, but also the cost of the knowledge, because you
Correct.
need to invest in people that learn the technology. Because if not, the other companies just become uh, s- companies that copy the main company that has started the blockchain, and then they start to run commands, but they don't really know what they are doing.
Hmm.
So how do you have been in many projects. I can
Hmm.
give you my experience about this, but how have you solved it in the
Okay.
past?
So I think you're right about the especially the there are two challenges in my perspective.
Mm,
One is the challenges about the this infrastructure management
mm,
if you working on any of the private permission
yeah.
blockchain, because in any of the layer one or the public chain you already have a ready infrastructure. You just need to write your application and deploy there.
Mm,
But when coming to the private permission blockchain like Fabric, you also have an additional responsibility to maintain the infrastructure and also expanding, maybe bringing the new node or maybe management, because there is a, you mentioned correctly that there's a knowledge cost is also there. It's not like you create the platform and once and you done. You always
yeah.
need someone hyper ledger fabric expertise, or not just about the writing smart contract or application, but you need the expertise of to manage the infrastructure, manage the new node, and then and running over with the, let's say there are different cluster having different organization, maybe one cluster running, or let's say one organization running on Docker, one running in Kubernetes, one running on maybe their own data center. All is very complex, which is simplified in other organization. But I think, see, in couple of my projects, so I have seen such kind of implementation. So there is one implementation where the Hyperledger Fabric is deployed on data centers,
Mm,
and the even Kubernetes cluster we are managing out there is not like any ready Kubernetes service like from the AWS or Azure. We have our own data center, and but I think you're right. These are lots of investment requirement for that one. You need to understand the how the protocol work. You also need to understand the Kubernetes. You need to even work on the different cluster communication out there. So obviously the cost is there, but I think if you put the efforts and put the team together, you can do it. I think how the you have the knowledge about the HLF operator and you build it actually. Similarly, if couple of people came together, you could have some kind of infrastructure. So that one of the projects I am doing the similar way. But other startups who are don't have a skills and don't have a amount or
mm,
money to put into it, then they are maybe simply running on one Kubernetes cluster deployed on one of the cloud, and just showing them as their complete network, but is not actually decentralized.
yeah.
And I seen the where we need the decentralization, but the skill lacking in Kubernetes, especially in Fabric,
Yeah.
they simply running on the Docker Swarm. So a couple of the India level infrastructure projects I have seen, they still running their projects on a Docker Swarm
Mm,
kind of project where,
yeah.
and Docker Swarm is very easy. Like you simply connect to
Mm,
a virtual machine together with the Docker Swarm network, and it works fantastically without. But that has become complexity where you managing and operating those kind of infrastructure.
yeah. But it's not only. I mean, it's not only the infrastructure. I agree with everything that you said. It's not only infrastructure. It's that in order for someone to join the network, they need to make an investment that is up high, but then the value is not so high because they can just use the network. So I think I mean, I have some ideas for this. So, for example, I think the private networks also will need to have some gas
Hmm.
associated with the transaction.
Correct, correct, correct. So I think I write about that thing as well because the another challenge I'm mentioning. So one is the technology challenge which discussed.
Mm,
Another is like if any organization want to use blockchain, but they don't want to invest and put the efforts
yeah,
on running nodes because they don't want to care about the node and actually thing. They just want to be whether one of the user or want to utilize the already infrastructure.
yeah,
So this is another thing, and the third thing is also there. Like the organization, even they are not realizing what is the value add for them, but it's still adding blockchain as one of their critical skills or critical requirement for their digital transformation. And whether the blockchain needed or not needed, or they don't have any kind of ROI model, how they're going to monetize the blockchain project which they are envisioning. So there's another challenge as well.
yeah, how to monetize. And
How
I
to
haven't.
monetize or kind of let's say they implement a blockchain but don't know like what is the value add in terms of this only talk, let's say, trust, transparency, traceability. But if there is no any financial gain, whether in terms of operation cost reduction or the
Mm,
new business model, otherwise it not make sense whatever you do in your business.
yeah, exactly. And well, I've been in many companies where they compare blockchain, what it can do versus using APIs and
Right.
databases. And I think it's, I mean, it needs to be, the use case cannot be random. The use case needs to be something that is for blockchain, like supply chain, tokenization, CDBCs, NFTs also, but not like a general database and then use it for exchanging data. I have seen one project that uses it for that, that exchanges data, and there are like 9 10 members, but it's not, there is not value in that because
Correct.
managing a network of 9 10 organizations of 10 organizations that are decentralized is really hard,
Hmm.
especially for the governance part,
Correct, correct, correct.
which
Yeah, I think we have seen a couple of infrastructure project failure as well. Let's say you talk about the trade lanes, right? How they are failed running from 4 to 5 years and not able to have a proper governance to sharing the data, and at the later they need to be not any making any revenue, not any business, so they stop. It's really we don't trade as well, right?
yeah,
And I think currently a couple of trade finance projects is also failing, similar to the how the trade lines is failed. So I think this is the same reason about the data sharing and the governance perspective. So if the blockchain simply say like every participant should have some kind of their own agenda or common agenda to get some kind of benefits.
hmm.
If one participant is managing and getting benefit, other is not, then there won't be any interest of the other organization to be part of the same network because they are unnecessary putting energy and efforts to maintain the node.
Yeah, and if they put the resources, then if they are not getting money, is because the service is not valuable enough.
Yeah.
So that is that is also one of the most common problems, I mean, in Fabric. And I think it's because of in 2020 2021 there was a big boom in a big increase on all of the blockchain projects that happened, and I think most of them were just out of curiosity in order to see if this technology works or not.
Correct.
And I think it was like, I want to use blockchain, then I'm going to find a problem that can be solved with blockchain, rather than I have a problem and then I explore all the possibilities, and then blockchain is the one. And then we're being left with use cases that are worth, which is as you're working on. I mean, you're working on projects that are profitable. So supply chain, tokenization, CDBCs, this project work with money, and I
Yes.
think
So, yeah,
the
and even there is a saying I seen in somewhere about like the blockchain is a solution looking for its problem.
yeah, I think that's how I see most some of the projects. So whereas AI, I mean, you mentioned about AI this platform which was called Resumex, no?
Yeah, correct.
So in this, how you mentioned briefly, but
Hmm.
do you use AI in order to build the product, but also in order to find like to generate smart contracts? How does
Yeah.
this work?
So let me explain. So what Resumex does actually. So you, I think everybody knows how the Upwork and
Yeah.
freelancing.com work, right?
Hmm.
And how the Naukri.com work.
Yeah.
So in the project, what we did, we incorporating both the Naukri plus Upwork in a common framework, and we are there will be one side, there will be employers or the any project owner who want to give project to the any of the freelancing website, let's say
Hmm.
the Resumex here, and the other side there will be developers who are working on such projects and then getting money when they execute the
Yeah.
project. But currently this process is have lots of issues in terms of the credibility of the developers. So whatever
Mm.
the you profile see in the Upwork, whether we don't know is correct or not correct, right? Second, what are the delivery contract they are signing? Uh, is
Hmm.
still sometimes payment issues happen between those employer and those things. And third is like there is an actual software industry, how they work actually. So you must be seeing like there are all the Indian or the developing countries get the project from US and UK, and they are charging a customer of very heavy charges, which is not relevant. Now, for example, let's say if any worker working in a TCS, for example, whether it's a fresher, he's getting around maybe let's say uh, uh, 400 $500 a day from the US billing, and
Mm.
actually not doing anything. So all the work is currently is a day wise or kind of hourly wise instead of the delivery outcome basis.
Yeah.
So in Resumex, what we did, we created the platform, and every delivery is converted as a milestone instead of the hourly basis. For example, suppose if there is a new project announced, so the project will be having a some delivery or some outcome based, and that outcome is we need to deliver, whether you deliver in 1 day or 2 day or 5 day, it doesn't matter. And to creating the contract between the employer and employee, we using the blockchain. So we let's say we write the smart contract about the this use cases. Let's say for example this one module need to have a 10 use cases. So
Mm.
every 10 use cases which link to the outcome, and the test case passes. When they passes, it will give the money to the a particular person who working on it. So this is the blockchain side there.
Mm.
Now the how we using GenAI there. So because now GenAI is actively used, especially in software development platform where you want to
Yeah.
automate, whether you want to do automatic writing a code or code verification or some kind of artifact generation. So we using GenAI to do all these things for this project. So that will makes life of software developer easy, and the employers is getting their project done in a less amount because most of the work is done by the that AI engine which we created. And second, the developer is just working on the basic refining the code and everything, and then whenever he submit the test and then passes, the smart contract trigger and made the payment to him. So technically reducing the developer software life in short period. Instead of let's say he's spending 8 hours on a problem, now it could be solved in just 2 hours, and that is give benefit to the employer. So this is one layer of the GNI using. Second layer, the because when you creating the dynamic contract between the employers and employees, so we are using GNI where we just passing a basic written prompt to get a new hyperledger fabric contract created, then
Okay.
later deployed to the network and is
Hmm.
activated. So that part as well.
Okay. And everything is automated, I guess. Wow.
Yeah, automated. So we just need to simply we use the GitHub Copilot heavily in our platforms, integrated
Yeah.
with the GitHub code. So whenever we submit the code, it will trigger the GitHub Copilot, create the code and other thing, and everything is automated. So simply like the work is required 8 hours to do the coding. Now it is doing on a just 2 hours. And also let's say this Docker Compose file,
Yeah.
Kubernetes file, we are also creating with the ready, skip, and promote.
So if someone wants to use this platform, they will need to like grade the requirements and then that's it,
Correct.
no?
So how so there are two users. One
Yeah.
user is an employer. Let's say, for example, if I have one project and I want to get it done,
Hmm.
so I will submit my requirement, and here with
Yeah.
some budget, correct.
Hmm.
And there will be other side of the user who are working or who have a knowledge on this particular problem. They will solve it,
Okay.
and in between this resume platform comes and uh, decouple the your requirement in different module and chunks using the GNAI and other thing, and even create the skeleton of the solution as well,
Hmm.
which developer tags and just build on top of it, and it becomes simpler.
But then it's only well, it's specific. So this platform is specific for blockchain development, right?
No, so we are using blockchain in general, but this platform is not especially for blockchain. It could be for
Ah, cool, for
any
anyone.
problem out there, any
Okay.
software in industry problem.
So you take some requirements and then you make a like a roadmap, let's say,
Correct, correct.
of the
Roadmap or some
milestone.
kind of
Yeah.
basic SDLC infrastructure. Let's say, for example, there will be use cases defined, there will be
Yeah.
user stories defined, and then there will be some kind of this all the thing. And when let's and user, employer, and employee just need to sign the contract with the, let's say, this is a milestone, this is a 10 use cases, and I
Hmm.
will need to do this in that much time and this much amount. And with this is
Okay.
logged, and this is logged under the smart contract. And now whenever this test cases passes one by one,
Yeah.
payment will trigger automatically. There will not be any intervention. For example, in the Upwork, right? You after delivery, you submit the code, and then the employer will
Yeah.
verify. Maybe he decline or not decline, whatever he said. Like, this is not I am asking. This is not the quality. Everything is complete. Lots of confusion between the
Yeah.
freelancer and that employer who giving the
For
task.
for backend task, I see it as a brilliant idea. For front end, it could be more difficult, no, to like
No,
get the satisfaction
but the
of the client.
front-end is also can be created. There are many different
Yeah.
AI engines available, which at least
Hmm.
I'm not saying like 100%
Yeah.
AI will do all the coding, but at least give the efficiency in the your software delivery.
No, I mean AI is completely changing everything because right now I'm using Cursor in order to develop. I mean, there is Cursor, there is Copilot,
Yeah.
there are many
Cursor.ai,
engines.
right?
Eh?
Cursor.ai.
Cursor. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Copilot also improve a lot. So,
Mm.
but I'm using Cursor and I use it all the time. I mean, it's it improves your productivity by a lot. And using it in an automated way, I think is the best. And the combination of both uh, of AI and blockchain also.
Correct, correct. So yeah, even recently, if you heard about this NVIDIA founder, they said like software engineering department will become HR department of the companies in the coming years.
I don't. I mean, the bar is raising because right now, I don't know. 10 years ago, you knew React, HTML, and CSS, and then you were the king.
Correct.
But now, I mean, my father used to teach XML 25 years ago, and he earned very good money. So
No, no,
teaching XML,
even in my engineering days, I also learned the XML, and when I did project on XML,
yeah,
and when you pass out and when I think we see the journey from XML to then JSON, HTML, and now even this blockchain heavily use this what we call uh,
protobuf, or
protobuf, right?
yeah,
Is a completely change, like how we using XML and is a very complex object on that time,
yeah,
and now then the JSON is very simplified. It works with every language. You just need to create JSON object, and later this protobuffer is another abstraction layer. Is more efficient.
yeah. Yeah, but no, what I mean is that there is an inflation of knowledge that every time, in order to give the same amount of value and earn money, you need more and more skills. So,
Right.
and with AI, I don't think that developers will be removed because well, there is a phrase from Naval that no one wants the second best application. So there will also be a need, I think, for good developers. But in order to build a project, instead of having 10 developers, may
Correct.
only need
You
two.
told it two developers, three developers.
Yeah, two, and then for the marketing, the same. There are a lot of videos that are created now by AI, and can be used for marketing and also
Correct.
for
Marketing and
copywriting.
even media as well. So there are lots of the people do the kind of video and some kind of graphics for the marketing. That is also completely AI generated.
Yeah. But there is a problem because right now, almost all of the, well, not almost, but there is a large amount of content that is generated by AI. But then what is happening is that the AI is going to train on its outputs. So th- there is a cap on the human generated content, and I think that
Oh.
it will be a problem in order to train it and get better results based from humans. But well, that is another story. We're getting into AI, but I, I see it like, for example, easy use cases for AI in blockchain, smart contract generation. So someone writing what they want as a use case and then generating it can be Hyperledger, Fabric, or Solidity, or any smart contract language. I see that as I don't know why no one has created it, to be honest, in
Hmm.
Fabric. And and also for the governance. What are your thoughts about governance? I mean, how have you handled governance in your projects? What are the challenges?
I think so. I think there are. I think governance is technically is not a challenge that can be done via the creating governance, but the main governance thing is about the logical, or maybe the organization level, where any organization coming together and then they are agreeing on something, on the revenue share or some kind of decision making. That is the more complex part. Technology layer, when you have everything, then it can be easily. So I think governance is not the issue, I think, for me.
But for example, in order to know what organizations to add, or how are the smart contracts developed, what changes there are to the smart contracts, all of this I consider it as governance. In
Okay,
terms of
okay.
you
Then
build
is
a
governance.
network. Yeah.
Then I think every organization need to have some expertise and understanding about the specific platform which they are operating
Mm,
to change the govern to understand the governance. But I think, but as a business side, people governance means like simply they want to understand like how their decision makers and the laws they are following to be in the sync with the same ecosystem consortium they're building. But the technology layer, I think you're right about the deployment to the smart contract changes to the deployment. Everything is coming to the governance thing.
yeah. Because one thing that usually happens is that one company grades all of the smart contracts, and then the other ones just follow blindly. They don't even look at the smart contract most of the times. So that is one thing that I'm also experiencing, because the rest only want the functionality, but in theory, ideally, the smart contract should be something that is developed with all of the participants in mind. So with all of the organizations in mind. Not sure what you think about that. But okay, so and about Web3 India, how do you see the future, Kamlesh?
So yeah, so then I think after US, I think India is the second largest Web3 developer community in the world. So and that's why every whether blockchain layer or community want to be get presence in India. So whether you talk about the Hedera, you talk about the Avalanche, whether you talk about let's forget about the Hyperledger, but all this layer one protocol want to be
Hmm,
use those developer community over there. So this is the growing field is there, but like the regulation and the compliances is a challenge out there, because let's say we have a clear regulatory things in Europe is like Mika, for example, for the crypto assets.
hmm,
Dubai is a very good ecosystem out there with the regulation is there, ADGM and the VARA and the Singapore as well. But here government is using the technology, but they are more different technology, not the other side of it. So, for example, I also involved in couple of different state projects and central government projects. So they are using technology, blockchain layer. They're not worrying about it. Let's say for example, IRCTC. There is a, let's say, IRCTC is one of the railway board is using blockchain for the NFT platforms. Central government uses the blockchain. Even Digi you heard about this, is one of the biggest project in India which is using the
Mm.
decentralized identity platforms out there on the blockchain base. So I think all is our actively community there, but I think this regulation perspective about crypto, about uh, regulation about the virtual currency and digital currency, that part is actually missing. So just 1 minute, I think someone calling. Okay, anyway, I just cut down. Okay. So I think that regulation thing is missing because still in India, let's say there are many crypto exchanges out there in India who are having around 16 to 20 million users on the one of the
Mm.
crypto exchanges. But still there is no regulatory thing is placed. And the other thing is happening the bad side because India is a huge country. There
Yeah.
are 1.4 billion people,
Mm.
and there are remote and there are uneducated people as well. Where this crypto thing is going out. So because I interact with some a couple of police officials or crypto officials in India,
Mm.
so this is impacting the parallel economy out there as well. So let's say for example the remote villages where they are only uh, don't have understanding about the technology and
Yeah.
only want to make quick money. So these are something issues are there as well. But I think overall, uh, dig- governments are looking at the technology as their building blocks for the digital public infrastructure. Let's say CBDC, let's say Digi let's say even this. If you heard about the NICNC deck, they are creating a national blockchain infrastructure on the blockchain. So this interesting question, and I think every state governments. So we have around 26 states in India. So
Mm.
every states are having a different blockchain policy, and blockchain work is in progress. So is a growing field out there.
No, especially in India. In Europe, I don't see as much growth as I see in India. You mentioned about decentralized identity, and this is a field that
Hmm.
had some growth in the past year. Now I think it's more quiet, but I see it as one of the best use case for. Well, it's not blockchain because only certain information is on blockchain, such as the schemas. As the name suggests,
No,
is
I believe.
decentralized, so you have
Hmm.
verifiable credentials. So how do you see it? Well,
Well, I see. I think if I categorize my five, I think some favorite use cases of the blockchains with the tokenization is the top
yeah,
because it not just only connect to the your liquidity part, but also do lots of programmability in the business processes. Second, I favoritely like about the digital identity
mm,
because identity and wallet is a critical part of the every business, whether you are using
yeah,
a payment wallet, whether you are using any citizen wallet, right? You have the
mm,
wallet is a critical part, and the every country has some kind of their data privacy laws. Let's say GDPR, let's say India also
yeah,
recently DPDP, for example. So using blockchain and using verifiable credential, you can solve that problem very effectively. This is the
mm,
second number use cases, and I think other use cases, let's say supply chain, other thing I think is completely derived by the how the consumer take it. Let's say for example, if Walmart put the blockchain in every system, and if consumer don't care about it, they don't want
mm,
to even scan the QR code and they don't care about the data, then
yeah,
is not make sense at all because because if consumer is not willing to pay extra $1 for seeing the traceability, then it not make sense. But I think
yeah,
very this digital identity and tokenization really can transform the businesses.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you have. I mean, I think that in this case, governments are the ones that need to implement it, but because I can do
Correct,
a
correct.
system that handles verify your credential, that you can download the wallet, etc. But if there is not a stamp for the government that you have this national document identity, and then you can present it to other institutions, and they need to build the framework. In Europe, we have, or we had at least
Correct.
FSV. There is also the EUD wallet, which I
Hmm.
think is the one that is
Correct,
being
correct. EU
deployed.
wallet. There is a
Yeah,
becoming a standard globally.
yeah,
Even
mm,
I was involved in one of the projects, and even I involved one of the company from the Europe for one of my project in India.
yeah,
EU wallet is not just for the standard for the EU, is
yeah.
becoming a standard for global as well.
Mm. And I'm not sure what technology they are using, but well, at the end, it's basic verifiable credential, and a verifiable credential is not nothing more than a
Yes.
JSON
Yep.
with a signature. So
Yeah. You just writing the proof of the
mm,
credential on the ledger. Rest of things are residing on your phone itself. So there is
mm,
no even I think this very verifiable credential could be done without blockchain as well, because you just
yeah.
need a public private key, right, to verify the your authenticity of the credential. You don't need a ledger at all.
Yeah, in fact, one of the well, if we go deep into the technology, there is something called DID, which is the decentralized identifier, and one of the easiest one to use. You could have the decentralized identifier in the blockchain, but you could also have it in there is a method which is DID web, which basically takes the DID from a website, and I think is one of the most the simplest one that you can use.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to talk. I think is the last topic. How do you see hybrid blockchain? Because I see that many companies want to. Well, this is a need that I saw that many companies want to use private blockchain, but they also want others to verify that it has been written in the private blockchain. So at
Correct.
the end, they use GPL Fabric for private for permission blockchain, and then uh, timestamp some data in a public blockchain. But the problem is that the public data cannot contain personal data. It needs to be
Correct.
anonymized. So how
Yeah.
do
So
you
I
see
think
like this
correct, correct. So I
synergy?
think there is a one use case you mentioned about like people want to authenticate the something transition from the private chain to the public chain. But
Yeah,
another use case of hybrid chain is like let's think about the one trade supply chain ecosystem.
mm,
There may be supply chain logistics happening on separate blockchain ledger, let's say logistics and shipping chain, and actual payment settlement happening, let's say letter of credit on a different chain,
mm,
and you need the interaction between these
yeah,
two systems together. There we need a some hybrid combination, whether let's say this payment settlement could be happening on, let's say, Besu, or
yeah,
let's say any of the other chain, let's say JP Morgan's Onyx network, for example, and this logistic supply chain happening on a fabric. So you need
mm,
those integration as well. So hybrid supply chain, I think, if you see the current IT infrastructure, right, is not only the one technology is there, right? End
yeah,
to end, from mainframes to the your React, Oracle, uh, DB2, everything is combined, and that
mm,
offer one complete solution. So similarly, like uh, uh, not only the public chain, not only the private chain is going to give the complete solution. You need combination of all this tech together to create something trusted.
yeah. Yeah, because at the end, if you have all of your data of the supply chain in a permission blockchain, then you need to be able to every. I mean, this is. I think this is done right now with bridges, or well, you uh, when you put some data on the permission blockchain, then you store it in the public blockchain. But there is something that I like about Avalanche, and is I'm not sure if you heard about it. Is subnets.
Yeah, P chain and C chain. I am aware.
Yeah.
I interact
No,
with
no,
the.
no, 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 no. I mean, they have three chains, but this is called subnets, which is something that is totally private, and then they can interact between each other, and they can have like different protocols.
But I think they say it's a private chain, but it's not completely private chain. When you're creating your private chain on Avalanche, you still need to register your every node and every chain to their main chain. So technically, their chain is knowing who are doing a transaction,
I
some kind of system.
But this is for Avalanche subnets,
Yeah.
or okay.
So now let's say there's a we call P chain is a private chain and C chain is their main chain. So let's say, for example, if I want to create a, because I had a detailed call with them. So let's say if I want to create my private ledger on Avalanche, I can create, but I need to register my nodes and my
Ah,
infrastructure
okay, yeah,
point,
yeah,
where mentioned, and they charging you for the registrations or some monthly, some recurring fee. So technically, let's say for example, if I create a private chain between, let's say, a couple of government entities,
mm.
so they or their public chain will be knowing who are these entities
Yeah,
out there.
yeah,
Those
no,
kind
I
of,
know. I thought you were talking about the data. No, it's about the
yeah,
validator needs to be
data
there.
is private within that chain only.
The Yeah, but one of the things that they have is that multiple subnets can connect with
Yeah,
each other,
correct.
and they can
I think
have multiple
same with
protocols.
Polkadot as well. Polkadot also created some kind of similar kind of subnet ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. I think this is where we need to go, to be honest,
Yeah,
in order to be able to like merge and connect multiple blockchain networks. I think there is a project called Cacti which tries to do that, but I think it's really hard for
today.
companies to really use it. So if so until here, I don't know if you have any question, any topic you want to.
So I think this is good for today. Maybe we can come to the any specialized topic next
Yeah,
time. Maybe whether it's a enterprise ecosystem, maybe tokenization, or maybe
yeah,
any of our favorite topics. We can come to the another podcast.
yeah, of course. There is something I want to say, because I'm building also a not a it's not a product, but let's say a project, and it's called Chain Deploy.
Yeah.
And the idea is to be able to spin up all of the for now Fabric and Besu, but to give each company. So imagine that you have like three companies that want to form a blockchain network. So each of these companies will have this chain deploy, and then they will spin up their super node, and then they will deploy it on bare metal, like Fabric and Besu nodes, and they will be able to connect between these super nodes. It's like Firefly, but
Hmm.
in order, but also handling the deployment side. What do you
Hmm.
think about this?
No, I think this is good project, and I also want to suggest something. So,
Yeah,
like we discussed in the initial conversation, like still everyone is doing the one cluster deployment. So,
yeah,
if your this chain deploy can also provide some solution where each organization can deploy to their respective AWS cluster, any of the Kubernetes cluster,
mm,
and another organization maybe running a separate cluster can join together and then do some kind of common channel between. Because currently everything, whether people doing on Docker Swarm, whether they're doing on a common one cluster. So if you, let's say, one organization running on AWS cluster, another running on Azure Cake, Azure Kubernetes, and maybe one running in a separate data center Kubernetes, and how they
yeah,
can work together. Because this is an actual business requirement when the organization who running their businesses separately and want to come together.
yeah. No, in fact, I'm making it agnostic for Kubernetes. I mean, you deploy in bare metal, so you have an easy to machine, for example, or your Mac OS. Imagine your computer, then you spin up your super node, and then you deploy your nodes, and then
But I think Kubernetes you putting there, right? Because Kubernetes now people are using for the production deployment. So if you doing without Kubernetes, then people also have some question because everybody can't use a bare metal kind of thing, right?
Kubernetes can use. Yeah,
No, no. I mean, like Kubernetes now, everyone using Kubernetes for their production deployment. So,
yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking to be honest. I mean, for big companies, it makes sense to have Kubernetes. But what about a company that doesn't have any knowledge and just wants to deploy the node and
hmm.
be part of the network? So for these companies and these organizations, I think it doesn't make sense to have Kubernetes. They just want uh, a, a BPS or a bare metal machine where with 4 gigabytes of RAM. I mean,
and
not
and
many
and
resources. Yeah.
what about the maintenance and support of this with this one? Because let's say scalability, how it will be managed?
How will be managed? The project or the
No, let's say for example, I deployed in some kind of bare metal, right? Now I want
yeah
to scale to maybe
to
more
scale?
CPU. So I have to do. I need to then because let's say in Kubernetes it is manage the scalability, is manage the
Yeah.
failure, all this thing. That now we need to do it separately, right?
I mean, it's not for uh, big companies that are managing a big network. So it's more for decentralization. So well, in a VPS, if you have if you have separated the storage and the compute, then you can, for example, in DigitalOcean, you can scale the storage or you can scale the CPU memory uh,
Mhm.
without deleting. So there are solutions out there in order to scale the machine, but not without losing any information. So, but one problem that I'm trying to solve is to make it easy to
Hmm.
build a decentralized blockchain.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Right.
That is one of my, but not sure what. I mean, right now I'm building the project. I can show you the project afterwards. Then I mean, it's
Yeah.
not
So
finished.
even happy to discuss on the next time about this
Perfect.
tool
Yeah.
updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So well, I'm going to cut it.
Yeah. We can cut it.
Yeah.
You can stop recording.